Anyway, let's go from a more complicated part to a less, more abstract conversation. In terms of how do you persuade? You said you knock on the doors, you do campaigning. That's obvious. People know what that means. But how do you persuade people to vote for you? What do you? Of course, it's not like directly promising something. It can be subtle, right?
Yeah, oh yes. I mean, you do all of that. You tell people what you've done in the past so that they should trust you to do similar things in the future. You tell them what you want to achieve, because people, most people, if they're making a genuine choice, they're choosing aspirationally what they want to see happen. So you try and chime with that. And you go out there and you basically try and persuade them. Some people don't need persuaded because they are fixed in how they're going to vote, but you want to meet as many people who aren't and, have that relationship, love them to death, speak to them, send them leaflets that represent the issues they care about, try and target the material you give them so it's relevant. You can have the best policy in the world, on animal experimentation, for example, but if the person's more interested in, farming rather than animal exploitation, you might be halfway there. You're talking about an animal rights issue, but not the stuff they're interested in. So you've got to get it tailored to the person you're speaking to. And the better you do with that, the more people will chime with what you're saying and will trust you when they go out. The other bit, of course, and this is more what our elected representatives do, is you, in the process of going out and speaking to people, you get complaints. You get stuff that they're not happy with. So you deal with those as surgery type issues and you try and get results for people. And as a party machine, you'll have councillors in every ward in an area. We've got different levels of parliamentarians, be it at the Scottish Parliament, some at Westminster, a few of them we had, and they're all doing a bit of that. So you get a reputation for delivering results, and people start to trust you as an individual or your party because they feel anytime they go to one of the reps, they get the result they're looking for, or somebody really tries to get them the result. The opposite is also true. If your opponents, because they've got councillors in every ward as well, because there's multi-member wards, if they do a better job, their party will start pulling votes away from you. So you've got to be out there working all the time as a political organisation.
So it's a process. Not only you do campaigning and persuading when it's near to the election, you do it all of the time,
all year round, all the way through. And there was an old Scottish politician who never got elected. He was a member, I think, of the Independent Labour Party and then the Labour Party, and then he joined the SNP, and his name was Oliver Brown. He was up until the 1960s, so sort of 40s all the way through to the 60s, this guy was quite influential as an intellectual and a wit. He had a great sense of humour. And one of his lines, and I've used it a few times, and I'll credit him for it because it's a great line, elections are for people who don't take politics that seriously, was what he used to say. It's, for Joe public just going along, hearing a bit in the news, reading a couple of headlines and putting across 15 minutes, 20 minutes out of their day once every 4 or 5 years, that's not a huge involvement. But the folk that take it seriously are out there doing it all the time, and it's, you've got to do that to get the result.
Makes sense. Tell a bit more about your life after you have been, because you have worked in the parliament as an MP for how many years?
9 years.
9 years.
Yeah, 9 years.
So that's two cycles of MPs.
Well, I was there, and this will give you a slight laugh. I was there during that whole period of madness around the Brexit period. So I actually was Brexit, yeah. I was successfully elected 3 times. So 3 terms were squeezed into those 9 years. Right. Since I became 18 and had the vote, there have been, from that point right up to the current day, and that includes Keir Starmer as the current Prime Minister, 11 Prime Ministers in my political voting lifetime. There were a few more before I was 18, but since I've had the vote, there's been 11. I saw 5 of those Prime Ministers in the 9 years I was in Parliament. Such was the turnover and the sort of turmoil of the political period. So I think that's an unprecedented part of history that I've sat through. I should have kept a diary, because nobody will believe.
Maybe an indication of lack of leadership going on in the UK.
I think part of it was, yes, and there was I think in some ways a pursuit of populism as well, and that I don't think ends well. You know, you need to be focused on real life and delivering long-term results. And yeah.
But how's your life after your work? It's like for me. Okay, so how I imagine it, because I've never been an MP, but how I imagine it is kind of like a life after being a footballer. You have to find yourself somewhere else. You've done your main work.
You do.
You're kind of confused now. What you're supposed to do?
Yeah, it all comes to an end, and you have to untangle everything. I was, you know, unlucky to not win, but fortunate to have lost in 2024 and not one of the previous elections, because the process has been streamlined a bit and made easier, and there's a longer wind-up period. And believe me, it took 4 months to wind up the office and get all the contracts cancelled and make the staff redundant and all the things that go with that. And then you have to look for something to do to pay the bills. And I'm still very much in that process, I have to say. I'm doing some part-time work, and I'm also trying to, amongst other things, set up a small video production company with one of my friends. So we're doing some free stuff for the now to build up a portfolio to then hopefully make some money. And that will give me a creative outlet. My political outlets, I have taken on a number of roles. I was always a political activist when I was elected and before I was elected. So it comes as no surprise that following no longer being elected, I've back in the frontline trenches again. I've taken on the role of convener of my local party branch. I've also taken on a co-convener role for a broader cross-party group, the Scottish Independence Convention, which is one of the cross-party bodies trying to bring different parts of the movement together to push for independence, very much in line with my own views in the SNP, but it brings in broader views as well. And I've taken on a non-executive directorship with the International Association for Democracy, which is a Scottish charity set up looking at democratic events. And it was set up after the Russian invasion of Ukraine. That was what prompted the people to set it up. So I've got a few outlets there that give me outlets on the issues I'm interested in, on democracy, on human rights, and on Scottish independence. So I'm keeping myself busy. I've been a local election agent for a by-election that happened in my old constituency area, and I'm probably going to do the same again in the next few weeks, because we've got another one. So that's allows me to use my skills and knowledge base and support the campaign going forward. And I'm waiting to see what the future opens up for me. I've not retired from elected politics. I'm just between seats, is the way I see it. I'm looking to see when the next opportunity comes. And the advantage of being in Scotland is we have a Scottish Parliament as well as the Westminster avenue for elected politics. So I will watch with interest to see if any opportunities open up for the elections next year for that. If they do, and they're local enough for me, I'm not running around the country trying to be a candidate because I want to be a candidate. I'm rooted in my own area and the neighbouring communities that I've got connections with. If that happens, good. If it doesn't, keep my head down and look at trying to win back my old seat the next time. And the current opinion polls are now suggesting I would win if the election was held now. So all of that's, encouraging, just disappointing we didn't get it on the night.
Well, good luck to you with that ambitions, and I hope everything goes right. In terms of young people, I think many of them who are interested in politics now are not only trying to become more involved, etc., but also trying to become MPs, and there are plenty of people trying to run for the same roles, aiming for the same positions. I was wondering whether you would advise these people to do so, or that's not worth it.
Well, I was lucky in politics because a bit of luck comes into it as well. You can come down the wrong side of the wire and just, no amount of effort can count for luck. So it's good to be lucky and good. But if you're going to be one or the other, sometimes lucky is better than good. But I had lots of family support, and you do need a support mechanism if you're going to do it. So that would be my advice, because it can be a pretty lonely role. And I don't mean, nobody talks to you, and quite the opposite. Everybody talks to you, but you need people you can confide in, and you can let off steam, and you can say the things that you could never say in public, just to stay sane.
Because you have your own views,
yeah,
and you have the views you express in public.
Yeah.
Regardless of whether you are reform people who are, known for expressing their views straight away, you still keep some of the views. You still keep some of the views, from the people you don't know. You don't want something.
Yeah, I don't think I ever moderated what I believed in. I always focused on what I believed in. But you will deal with people, and most people are lovely, and you want to help them. So there's an encouragement, and they want you to help them. You want to help them, and you do your best. But some people are absolutely obnoxious, can be toxic, and you will encounter those. So you need a thick skin, and you have to remember that they are the minority, and not to rise to them or respond to them on social media. So that would be the main part of my advice. And I think younger people get it a bit worse than us middle-aged folk, because they've been brought up with social media, so they feel it more. Whereas, I just turn it off and don't look at it and think, I don't know, that person doesn't mean anything to me. But others take it much more personally, and you've got to get that thick skin, and
that's the point of social media. I mean, you get comments and it forces you to reply.
Well, you don't always have to.
I felt that myself.
You don't always have to reply.
I have to reply to this comment.
No, you don't always have to reply. That's the first thing you've got to get. And the other thing is, sometimes the correct response is just to block someone. If they are just completely negative, don't put up with it. So, if they're polite and they've got a different viewpoint, that's different. That's, engage with them, and other people will see your response, and you might win folk over. And engagement is good for the posts going in front of more people. But if they're not polite and respectful, don't engage with them. That's my my best advice for them. My mother gave me advice. She was quite happy with me when I was a counsellor. I was able to live locally. I was home every night. I did all that, and she gave me great support. And she gave me great support when I went for Parliament as well. But when I told her I was going to stand for Parliament, she says, "Do you really want to do that? Nobody in their right mind would want to do that." and that's probably was good advice that I didn't take. But you need people to do it, and it needs a broad cross section of society. So yes, you need everybody taking an interest, taking a part, to get a representative Parliament. So I would say to young people doing it, yes, they should do it, but go into it with their eyes open and be prepared to have a thick skin. And one thing that you need to learn, and I've done elected politics for 25 years on different levels, and it's very hard to do this. You have to learn to say no. And I don't think I've managed that part.
You learn what? Again?
Learn to say no, because you have to turn things down.
Say no, okay. Yeah.
Because if you don't turn things down, you have no time to yourself at all. And you want to do stuff, and you want to do more, and you want to help. So you accept more things than you should, and it's your family that suffers. You're out there enjoying yourself or getting a name for, he's great, he always turns up. But it's the rest of your social life that suffers, and that impacts the other people that matter to you. So, and I wasn't good at that. You'll get a much more interesting podcast when you speak to the family and say, what's it like being a member of a politician? And that would maybe frighten people off, but seriously, you need to try, and it's not easy. So.
And I'm glad you didn't say no to this podcast.
No, well, as I said, I'm not good at saying no. I usually wear a badge that says yes. I'm a yes man for independence, and I say yes to almost everything that comes up. But I do enjoy engagement, and I do enjoy a good political blether and a discussion. So that's an easy one. I was out on Saturday night as a guest speaker at the Hindu Economic Forum's Scottish chapter launch, and that was great fun as well. And
Yeah, well,
we just keep doing these.
It's unfortunate. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's unfortunate we can't keep going for any longer. The time is running out. But thank you so much for your time. It has been amazing.
Yeah, no
Certainly,
problem.
I got to know something that I didn't know before, and maybe missed the first time we talked.
Yes, and if in 6 months or a year's time you want to follow up, just give me a shout and be more than happy to.
If the audience asks for part 2, I have to do it. Okay, yeah, thank you so much.